Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Baranowski. Today we're going to be talking about our new unit, Unit 4, the Industrial Revolution. So before we get started with the notes, I need you on your side to pull up the note page on OneNote. So there's a section on your OneNote called Unit 4, Industrial Revolution. And if you're in our A through L group, the group that we see in person on Mondays and Thursdays, you want to look for the page called 1215, Geographic Context of the IR, which stands for Industrial Revolution. If you're part of the M through Z group, which we see in person on Tuesdays and Fridays, you want to look for the page called 1214, Geographic Context of the IR. Once you have that pulled up, the notes I'm going to go through go along with that page. So if you need to pause this video for a minute while you do that, that would be a great idea. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is this question: what was the Industrial Revolution? So let's break down that word. So the word revolution, anytime you see that word, I want you to think the word change. So revolution is some kind of change, okay? So on your OneNote, you want to be writing down any of the words I show you that are in red. So under revolution, you're going to write change in. And if you think about the French Revolution, which we just talked about, that was a change in government. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about the Industrial Revolution. So it's going to be a change in something that's industrial. And industrial means manufacturing, or how things are made. So if you put those two words together, you have a change in manufacturing, or how products are made. And that is what the Industrial Revolution is all about. So on your OneNote, you'll also see a spot to write down the full definition of the Industrial Revolution. And again, you want to be writing down anything that's in red. So the full definition for Industrial Revolution is the change from making products at home by hand to making products in factories with machines. So before this happened, people made everything that they needed at home. So whether it was clothing, they would be responsible for getting all of the materials to have the fabric and then making pants or a shirt from it. Okay, so they were responsible for the whole process. After the Industrial Revolution happens, we see that people are going to begin making products in factories with machines, and it's a lot quicker and they can make a lot more products. So people are no longer having to make all the things themselves at home. All right, so the next thing you'll see on your OneNote is this chart. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, before the Industrial Revolution, that's the left-hand side, how did people make goods before the Industrial Revolution? And if you look at that picture, they're at a house, right, and they're making goods by hand. So you want to write down they were making things at home by hand. After the Industrial Revolution, how did people make goods after the Industrial Revolution? That's the right-hand side of this chart. And from this picture, you can see that they're in a much bigger place, like a factory, and there's tons of machines, right? So there's still people involved in the process, but they're not the only things that are involved. So machines are involved as well. And they're able to make things on a much larger scale. So on that side, you want to write people were making things in factories with machines. So this really gives birth to the whole mass production of goods, so being able to make a lot of things really quickly. So the next thing we're going to be talking about today, and what you're going to explore after these notes are done, is the geographic context, which means why did the Industrial Revolution happen in Great Britain? So geographic context, you may remember from last year. If you don't worry about it. Again, with schools closing, we didn't always have time to get through all of the 9th grade skills, so we're going to review it here right now. So geographic context is a fancy way to say where an event happened and why it happened there. So if you look at the word geographic, right, we're talking about location, so that's the where it happened. And the context is kind of explaining the background, the backstory. So why did it exactly happen there? So we're going to take a look at a map together right now and practice. How do you actually answer geographic context? How do you put together an answer for that? So here's our map. It says map of pyramids of Egypt from 2600 to 1200 BCE. If you look at the map, you can see on here the Nile River is labeled. And along the river, you can see different cities that were there, and then all these different temples and pyramids that existed. You can see the Great Sphinx there, okay? So the question is, what is the geographic context of this map? So again, we're asking you to do two parts. You have to say where this is happening and why it's happening there. So the sentence starter we like to use is this. This is the first part. So this is happening in, and then you need to say the location. And you have a few different options for this one. So you could say Egypt, because this is ancient Egypt, and the map tells you that through the title, right? You also could say that this is happening in the Nile River, which again, that's on the map, right? So you just have to look at the map for that. You could also say this is happening in a river valley too, right? If you think back to last year, you guys studied different river valley civilizations. All right, so you need to give some kind of location. That's the first part. So this is happening in Egypt, on the Nile River or river valley. And then you have to add the why. So because why? And there's lots of different options you can give for this. So here are 2 sample answers. So you could say because the river is giving people fertile land for farming. This means they have a surplus of food and can have people build pyramids and temples. You could also say people have a stable food source from farming, allowing them to develop a civilization along the Nile. So if you remember back to last year, one of the big reason why civilizations are allowed to develop is because people learn how to farm, right? And because they have this stable food source, they're able to stay in one place and start to do those other things like build pyramids or develop government or have economic systems, right? And have religions, all those things. If you remember talking about carts last year, about those features of civilization. All right, so your answer just needs to explain like, why is this happening here? So what you guys are going to do now, after completing all these notes, is complete the rest of that page on OneNote. And the page looks like this, and your guiding question is, what was the geographic context of the Industrial Revolution? So in other words, where did the Industrial Revolution begin, and why did it begin there? So the reading is going to take you through a few different reasons why the Industrial Revolution happened in Great Britain. Okay, so you're trying to investigate and learn what are the different reasons why it began there. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, we're going to ask you to answer that same question we just did about the map of Egypt, about geographic context. So explain the geographic context of the Industrial Revolution. In other words, where did the Industrial Revolution begin and why? And we gave you that sentence starter again there. Okay? If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.